Hey guys, Matt here once again, and doing my due diligence as a content creator to talk about the upcoming patch for Path of Exile 2. That is essentially their first like real big piece of work since they've come back off their break. So it's been a bit of a while since we've had any real update, and this is an indication as to what they think is important and what is coming for PoE 2 immediately, like in the next week or so, and then maybe some stuff that's also in the future, because they did do a Q&A with a couple of content creators, Darth Micro and Ghazi, which kind of gave a bit of insight into how they feel about how things are going and what might need changing in the future as well. So to quickly just go over the immediate stuff that's coming, everyone was kind of speculating that it might be a big patch of like buffs, nerfs, and my build's gonna die, all this and that. It really felt like it was too early for that, and there's just basically been the first real month of actual playtime amongst the community to experience the game, and then for the developers to see feedback off of that basically, and see how people are liking things, what needs immediate work. So I think it was always going to be a bit of a patch to solve some of the problems and the gripes that the community has with the game, and I guess in particular the end game, which is kind of a rush job. And from what we've seen, from what has been put forth in the video, it actually looks like they're pretty on the button with a lot of the issues that the community has had, and some pretty quick fixes to a lot of those. So a lot of the fixes that are coming by the end of this week is to endgame mapping, because it was a rush job. It's like, oh shit, we need to put in some endgame stuff so that people have something to do after they do at least half of the completed campaign. And it needed a lot of polish, and it still does need a lot of polish even with this sort of big patch that's coming. I think it's still going to need a bunch, but it'll be a good start and make it less tedious to go through. And obviously in the future there'll be much more content, and hopefully it'll just be better. So to sum up, a lot of the stuff that's coming, it is for endgame mapping, and it will be some quality of life, some good stuff that's coming that way. So like the death effects and explosion effects from certain mobs and mechanics and stuff is going to be more obvious. That is very like hard to see in some maps right now, so that's a very good change. Atlas zoom function, that's pretty damn good. You're gonna be able to zoom out a lot more, which is something we definitely need. A search function is supposed to be there, but that's not going to be happening in this patch. But they did say that that was kind of part of their original design. They just didn't get around to it. Definitely need one of those, something like that. Citadels are going to be much more obvious and actually, well, visible to begin with. Not just obvious, but you will actually see them on your map. I don't know where exactly that one was in the video. So you will see citadels like just inside, just outside of your current vision, your fog of war, whatever you call it. Did they go over it somewhere? So it was a bit ahead. Yeah, so you'll be able to see your citadels like through the fog of war, which I think is going to be pretty hilarious, because a lot of people have just like not had a citadel this entire time, and I think there's a good chance that you're going to be looking through your map and just seeing citadels lying right outside your kind of current field of view, and just go, well, fuck, there was a lot right next to me that I didn't quite get to, and just divert it to another area. But that's going to be good. You can chase down your citadels much easier, and hopefully everyone's going to get a chance to experience all that stuff. And then once you've done your citadels, the actual pinnacle boss will have 6 portals instead of just the one. All of the pinnacle boss content will inevitably have 6 portals, but they're not quite ready to do that. They will work on that one as well. But that was a thing that was never going to last. I knew, like, just going into the game, having played it for a bit, they were always going to walk back the 6 portal thing, the 1 portal thing on end game bosses eventually. There's just no way it would have lasted, because it just feels bad for the majority of the player base, and you can't alienate that many people from some of the coolest content in the game. I'm surprised it happened this early already, and 6 portals immediately already instead of like 2 or 3 or something. But cool, good stuff. Maps are still going to have 1 portal though, because well, they kind of like that feel. The risk of a single sort of attempt at a map, and I think that's still fair enough. as a softcore player, it's not the best thing because you don't really want to be punished for death that much, which is why you picked softcore. But it's a bit of a middle ground, and it does make you just think a bit more about your maps, and about your content, your gameplay, whatever. But with the bossing thing, I think that's a better, good upgrade there. What else did we have when we were talking about stuff? Towers. So they have kind of doubled down on towers. I know a lot of people aren't fans of these things. So that's, maybe a bit controversial because currently the towers that exist, you are forced to do them. They're a bit of a nothing content. They do suck. But they're saying they're introducing more, a few new layouts. They're making the current one better and more runnable. And I mean, listen, I think it's fine if it's good, right? If they make it worth running, if they make it like runnable and enjoyable enough, the tower mechanic, it's fine. It can go the way it is. If it stays the way, it currently feels, where the current tower just feels kind of shitty to do, it's a bit of a nothing mechanic and just something you have to do that's annoying as fuck, then it's still going to be a bit of a fail system. We'll see how that goes, but don't be too threatened about towers existing still, because if it's good, it's good. We just have to see if they make it good. There's going to be more bosses on the maps, and you can have a bit more control with a tablet to make more bosses. Pretty good stuff. Bosses are a large source of your waystones and loot. They are improving league mechanics, so strong boxes, essences going to be much better. Breach probably getting a nerf sometime in the future because it's like pretty out of line, but not one that's going to ruin it or one that you're going to notice too much. But yeah, currently strong boxes and essences are pretty trash. They're getting a buff. Expedition is also being looked at because they want to do something more spicy with it. It's a bit bland. It doesn't add enough to the current game, something like that. So they will be hopefully looking into that one in the future. We did the pinnacle content. We got some item changes. So some items just straight up could not roll some shit right now because of like kind of a bug. So, high tier items are going to roll like slightly better. And they're also trying to just make items in general, rares, roll better than before. So that's a good change. Eliminating some of like the likelihood of getting the shit rolls, something like that. They did rework some uniques. They said, here's a bunch of uniques. We want to make sure that they're usable and rework them. Most of them are actually kind of nothing burgers. Like, yeah, maybe slight bit of damage increase or something. It's still just going to be a very like niche, slightly usable leveling unique. Some of them are a good bit better, so they're more usable. Like the strength chest, definitely a bit more usable. This staff is really good for leveling and got even better, so it's going to be a pretty damn good monk leveling stick. But a lot of them are just kind of hit and misses. Still barely worth even saying that you changed anything to them. So that's a bit, leaves a bit to be desired still. Runes will be replaceable, so you'll destroy the previous rune, but you'll at least be able to put in a new rune, so you can finally change other people's like runes from gear that you're buying and stuff, or commit to a certain rune on a certain item slot, even if you don't know if that's the one you permanently want. You'll be able to get rid of it at a later date. So that's a pretty good thing. That was, I'd say, always going to happen. There was no way that was going to last forever. Specific monster balancing. So I guess some bosses, some monsters were just a bit dumb, a bit tough and stuff, and they've rebalanced a bit of that to make it so some things don't hit quite as hard or quite as off screen. Not too much to say there, just still an ongoing battle there. Item filters coming to console finally, because apparently that's been terrible the entire time. What else? I think that might be largely it. Other stuff. Just a few other little things that they mentioned, like charms going to be better visibility, better usability, and armor slight buff, something like a 15% number overall is what they're saying. And then scavenge plating supposed to be like buffed. Whether that's for like usability or just number wise, don't know. I doubt it's going to be buffed for Thorns, so don't get too excited based off my previous video. I doubt the Thorns number on it is getting much better, but if it's like more usable and you can like maintain 10 stacks easier, then perhaps that's still kind of a Thorns buff. But otherwise, yes, armor is supposed to be slightly better than before. And I don't think it's in a horrible place. Like, yeah, it's mostly not as good as people want it to be, but it still does things and it still does make you feel tankier. It's just the disparity of the fact that ES and also evasion in particular, combined with ES, is still so much better. That's more the problem. And I'm not sure that really changes at all. So there is that to be said. So yeah, and then just to quickly talk about what happened with the interview, if there was anything to really say. We'll rip the band-aid off. They didn't want to say anything about PoE 1 because, well, first of all, it's a PoE 2 interview. So it wasn't even asked until the very like last bit about just, oh, PoE 1. And then they just like, yeah, that's a big topic. We don't want to get into it right now. It's the end of the interview. To me, that didn't seem like brushing it off as saying, "Oh, there's a lot to talk about there, guys." Ooh, might be a delay or some shit like that. That's what a lot of people are fucking immediately jumping on, saying they don't care about PO1. PO1's dead, and that sucks. To me, it just seemed like it was that's this is the end of the interview. We can't really talk about that now because you just want us to get out of here, whatever. It seemed like that they just didn't want to start talking about all of PoE1 stuff immediately. Now, of course, maybe I'm misreading and that's some kind of copium, but they initially said that they have like a while back, there was a post and they said that PoE1 announcement for like, the league and stuff will be around late January or maybe February, something like that. That still hasn't changed. It's like people are just instead trying to get more information ahead of time and going, hey, what about getting us, some information now? And they're just like, well, that's a big topic. Anyway, so I wouldn't be alarmed yet. Of course, if we don't get any good PoE1 stuff in the next month or two, it sucks, and we all hate that. And GGG and Chris Wilson, big shit, all of that. Yes, of course, I'm with you. But let's not jump to conclusions until we get fucked by the reality of the situation, if that was to come. So that's PoE1 stuff. Basically nothing. What else? What else? What else? Jonathan doesn't think there's anything wrong with Warriors in particular. After playing it, he's just like, Warrior seemed fine in, when I played it, which, was a bit of a, did take me aback a bit because it's like, well, have you played anything else? Like, yeah, well, I think Warrior in PoE 2 might feel kind of fine in a vacuum. If you just play it by itself, you just play Warrior, and then you're like, I'm having fun, PoE 2, oh man, strike slam stuff, and, meaningful combat and shit. Okay. But then you play Monk, for example, and you're just like, oh wow, this is what it's supposed to actually feel like. Well, now my Warrior playthrough sucked. Something like that. But for the most part, there was a bit of a disconnect there between the interview question and the answer, who seemed to think that Warrior's like okay, or the stuff that didn't really need much love. But most of us do think that Warriors need a bit of stuff, and of course they're going to look at that feedback and then maybe act on it and make some Warrior changes, because they did say that there's going to be balance changes in the future for everything. So once they do a new league, which there'll be like a new league, a whole new like reset or something. So there's always going to be standard. You're going to be able to play standard as much as you want, and you won't have to level a new character if you don't want to. But there will be new leagues, new economy resets and stuff, similar to how PoE 1 functions during the early access though. And when they do that, they're going to have the big sweeping balance changes, or the new class, new items, stuff like that. And during that, that's when Warrior might get a bit more of a fine tune upwards, or not get touched while some other stuff gets nerfed. Something like that. We'll see what happens, but yeah, obviously I think most of us think Warrior and mace skills and stuff need a bit of love. Aside from that, not sure there's anything immediately pressing to actually talk about. That was for me, watching the interview and watching the announcement, most of the stuff that I got away from it. Good stuff, I think, coming to the end game. It's looking pretty good for our first patch back. They seem like they're pretty, like I said, on the button with a lot of the issues that the game currently has, especially in Endgame, and fixing them up pretty quickly. This is a game that is still in early access, still will be having a lot of work and stuff added to it over time, and slowly, I think, by full release, it will be a pretty banger of a game. Of course, there needs to be more league mechanics, there needs to be more crafting, there needs to be more classes and skill balance and everything. And that's all coming in time. So I'm not too worried about that. I'd say if you're a bit bored of PoE 2 at the moment, that's fine. That should be pretty normal by now. It's been like 5 or 6 weeks, and there's like a third of the classes and skills and stuff to play, and the end game is pretty bare bones, and we don't have Act 4, 5, and 6. So I'd say it's pretty normal to be bored by it by now, so don't feel bad if you are. And if you still love it, then by all means, let's keep leveling characters and experiencing the campaign and stuff. I think that's fine too. I still have probably a few more characters worth of fun in me But, you know, I'm getting a bit more towards that. I'd like some new shit kind of feeling as well. I think this end game is going to make it feel a lot better with this coming patch because it's solving a lot of issues that make the end game a bit tedious and a bit just not all there. So that should be good. That should be a good patch and make sitting on your character for longer feel a bit better, I think. We'll see. Anyway, that's the patch. That's the upcoming thing. Wrap up. Hopefully that wasn't too long or rambly because it was a bit all over the place. I don't want to just sit here and deep dive the entire interview and everything. So just tried to, off the top of my head, as much as I could from what we remembered yesterday. So yep, with that, hope you guys are excited. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.